Okay guys, tonight we will be working on a 2007 Mercedes S550, and the concern at hand is going to be the airbag light is on. It has a trouble code in the airbag control module for basically pointing to an internal fault of the control unit. My thoughts was to get a completely separate unit, a used one of course, and see if I can get that working in the vehicle. It's my first time dealing with a used airbag module on a Mercedes, and so I wasn't sure if it was possible to do it with aftermarket tooling, or even if that is a possibility of being able to use a used unit. Once I ran into a dead end with not having any way of, what I thought any way of getting it to work in the vehicle, like it didn't recognize the vehicle build and some coding or incorrect coding options, trouble code came up. And so at that point, just knowing that I had an original one and then the used one, I wanted to see if I can take the two and make one basically by EEPROM work. My concern was to get rid of the internal error code in the module by some way matching the two by EEPROM, or try and find flash, or seeing if that internal fault was in the EEPROM or on the board, so on and so forth. So I'm going to bring you along. I started filming late, but basically this was plugged in the car. It didn't work. The original one had an internal fault, and so that's what I want to get rid of. And I'm going to get this on the bench, read it, and try to make something happen. Okay, so I've actually was able to hook up to the airbag module here on the bench, and this is the donor one off of the salvage yard, and we're clearly going to have multiple codes for things being unplugged. Obviously it's not in the vehicle, but now that it's on the bench and not sharing information with the rest of the car, these coding ones are listed as stored, and there we go. So all the coding ones are stored, which was the ones that we gained when we plugged it into the car, but we clearly don't have that internal fault, the 0096 or whatever that is, and so I'm going to continue on. I've got a couple ideas. Don't know if it's going to work, but this is my start. I did read this guy here, that's the original one, and I'm not going to waste time reconnecting it and showing it, but it had all these unplugged stuff along with that internal fault listed as stored and current. As we know already that is the problem that we're chasing. So let me continue on and I'll get you back on here. Okay guys, so I'm bringing you back. First and foremost, I could not get any good reads on the EEPROM. If you look at the ASCII table, and I noticed that on the Nissan ECU that when it was corrupted, it just had a lot of the weird characters there. And so what I did was I went over to the tablet and read them on that tablet, because there I can set where it'll basically do two reads in a row, and if they're inconsistent, it'll tell you that there's an error. I haven't been able to find the setting on the PC so far. I'm sure it's there, but so I could not do nothing with the EEPROM data for each one, and that happened with both EEPROMs for both modules. So I'm probably just not selecting something proper, but yeah, it's a 95640 ST EEPROM, so I don't know what's going on, and that option is there, as you can tell there. So, but my next thought at that point was to let me transfer, basically flip-flop EEPROMs onto different boards. So the way that I did it was I marked the donor board and EEPROM with this yellow dot there. You can see, and then the EEPROM as well. So what I did, I took the EEPROM from the donor, installed it on the original board of the car, and hooked it back up and reread it. So I knew I was going to get a bunch of, those regular unplugged component codes. And one thing I was curious, first I wanted to see if the coding stuff would be there or not, and it still is. So we have transferred that from the EEPROM. So that's been in the EEPROM as far as the coding fault. But the other main thing was to see if that 9600 would be there or not. And to my surprise, it is. And this is the EEPROM from the donor that never had that code. So moving that EEPROM to here and then reading it, scanning it through the OBD now gives us this code. That tells me that faulted situation is probably in the flash and not the EEPROM on the basically kind of MCU that's on the board. So what I want to do now is take the original EEPROM, move it over to this donor board that never had that 9600 code, and hopefully we can move on with this. The only thing that I was kind of afraid of is the whole coding codes, because I believe that is going to be in the flash. And actually, let me try to see if I can clear them here. I know a lot of other stuff is going to return, but I want to see if the coding ones go away. Actually, maybe even the 9600. Who knows? Let's see what it does. Okay, so it doesn't look like it was able to clear it here on the bench. Okay, let's move the original EEPROM to this board, rescan it, see what codes we get. Hopefully we don't get those coding codes come up, but we'll see. Okay, so I've got the EEPROM installed on the donor board. This is still open from previous. I'll back out again, go back in. Okay, so that means the chip is installed good. Let's see what codes. Main things that I'm looking for is to see if the coding codes appear in this read now that we transferred the chip over. And of course, curious to see what's going to happen with that 9600. Huh. Wow. Okay, so we've got no coding codes, but we've got a 9600 here also. So I was not expecting that. Okay, so I think next what I'm going to try is install them back in the car and see if I get any difference there that way. Okay, so quick update. I put both modules back together. This is going to be the original one. That is the donor. I've kept the boards the same way. So this one has the original board that had the 9600. And then this is, again, the donor, but it's got the original EEPROM. last night. I didn't even notice, but when I did scan it on the bench, this guy here, um, I was I was too worried about the whole 9600, and when I saw it there, kind of just decided to stop. But I wasn't even paying attention that it was it came up in the scan because it's the EEPROM that held that in memory, and it was listed as stored and not stored in current. So it makes sense for it to transfer if the EEPROM holds the fault codes and to have it listed even though it's a separate board, when we know this board generated that code onto this different EEPROM. So hopefully I'm not losing you. So the thing is, this one didn't generate it as a current thing. And so what I am doing now, or what I have done, and I'm catching you up, I've installed that one, the donor board with the original EEPROM, and I've scanned it. We are in the airbag, and obviously all the other ones that were current because things were unplugged, I figured they would come up as stored since everything now is being seen that it's plugged in. The thing that I wanted to see was, and hope to not come up, was the coding stuff. And then also see what the 9600 does. So if we scroll, all of this, look at it, it's stored. And it's for all those other components. Stored. This one, again, it's there, but it's stored. And if you notice, none of these are related to any of the coding, which I honestly would have thought that coding stuff would have been on a flash somewhere on the board. So I'm surprised right now, but I'm going to continue on. I'm going to actually, now since I've read it while plugged in, I'm going to clear all of these and see if all the errors go away. So key it on, hit erase. All right, guys, so I don't know if you could tell when I tried to clear the code, it still wouldn't let me. It acted as if there was still something currently present, even though everything was listed as stored, not present. So off camera, I did a bunch of poking around right now, so you can see no code. So what I ended up doing, basically, I don't know, it seemed almost like the module needed to be set up, let's call it, or kind of coded. So I went into active test, and it actually ran through almost like a setup for coding, kind of a communication line to the engine computer. So I just followed those steps, and then after that I went into this, which I wasn't 100% sure what it meant or what these are, but I went ahead and started messing around. What I am thinking that it refers to, so if you go to release, I'm assuming it kind of like unlocks the module, let's call it, to be able to be refitted into the vehicle, like a process, kind of like I guess literally, yeah, like it unlocks it to have the ability to be kind of readapted. So I hit that, and then it tells you once it's unlocked, you need to perform an initial startup or a lock procedure. And so I backed out, hit that, and it still said that it couldn't do the lock. After that, I went in and read the codes. I cleared them, and it finally let me clear them. It went through the process of cycling the key, clear the codes. Then I went back into the adaptations and then perform the basically lock procedure, and then it said basically that it was able to do it. And once that happened, all the messages and stuff went away. And again, once we backed out, there were no more codes. So what I believe happened is with that unlock and clearing the codes and locking it, and the active test for setting up that communication line, I think we basically adapted this module to the car in the way that it's happy with the equipment here and the setup. So I believe we've got it set up good. All right, so that's pretty much it on this Mercedes. As you can tell, after the whole EEPROM deal, there was still quite a few bit of steps that I had to perform with the tool to get it to all be happy and basically have no more issues or codes come up. Again, the main thing that I was fighting was that 9600, and it appears to be that it was on the board that originally came with. Obviously, we've got that rectified, and customer is happy. And the one thing that I kept thinking about was I almost wonder if I didn't even have to do everything that I did as far as EEPROM. After realizing that the scanner had that option about the lock and unlock deal, I'm almost wondering if that's a way to do basically a used module. So if I would have seen that or known about it or attempted it, which actually reminds me, I did see it in the beginning. I didn't want to go into it just yet. Then when I first got the used module, and but after seeing what it does, I'm curious and almost wondering if I did all those steps for nothing with the whole EEPROM, because it seems that that procedure, along with those other small steps, it calibrates and makes it happy with the car and the rest of the modules. So maybe there's some of you, Mercedes guys out there, or some of you that have done a used airbag module, and is that the procedure? Just, I guess, let me know. But other than that, it was again a learning experience for me with trying to do some of this used module stuff. So maybe you guys pick up some tips, and hopefully it helps some of you guys. But that's all on this one. It's wrapped up, like I said. It's gone. Everything's good. So that's pretty much it on this one. So thank you for watching, and as always, we will catch you on the next one.